still remember one day, it was around past midnight, and our consulate in Mazar-e-Sharif in Afghanistan was under attack. And we were using the phones, trying to figure out what happened. So this was Afghanistan of that era. So you had to kind of get a friendly warlord who would go in and help your people. So all of this was happening. You're juggling 4 phones, talking to everybody, keeping the courage up at that end. And the phone rang. My phone rang. And normally, when the Prime Minister calls, you get a no caller ID. Okay. Yeah, it sort of took me a bit by surprise. And but even on the no caller ID, usually somebody connects you. Okay. So this time it was the Prime Minister. Okay. And obviously he assumed I would recognize him rightly. And so his first question was, Jage ho? I said, sir, it's 12:30, what else could I be doing other than being awake? Because in his life, that is probably natural. He said, Acha, TV dekh rahe ho? I said, TV dekh rahe ho. So, kya ho raha hai wahan? So, because he assumed that's exactly what I'd be doing. I said, nahi sir, wo abhi attack chal raha hai, par abhi help is on its way, etc. So, exchange. So then he said, अच्छा जब खत्म हो जाएगा मुझे फोन कर लेना. So I said, sir, इसमें 2-3 घंटे और लगेंगे. तो जब हो जाएगा मैं आपके यहाँ बता दूंगा. So there was a pause. He said, मुझे फोन कर देना. Okay. And I say this to you because that sense today, that sense for people who work in the government, people who are in public life, who are in political life, and I would say today people in the country. The way he put it, good times or bad times, he's there. And politicians are always there in good times. Okay. So that's in many ways really the difference. The fact that when things are difficult, and we saw that during COVID. We saw that during COVID. There were many, if you look around the world, how leaders handled COVID. Not everybody stepped up, not everybody said, I will take that difficult call, it is my call. And to handle the consequences of very big decisions, which at that time you took, with the enormous risk of what was being decided. That is really an extremely, I would say, singular quality, and which then brings me to my fourth and last. Our diaspora policy bears similar hallmarks of core beliefs and strong care. I had earlier written about, the various operations we have done to bring back people. It is now widely accepted that the Madison Square Garden event of 28 September 2014 was a watershed in that domain. Prime Minister Modi had been invited to come to the US by President Obama during a congratulatory phone call. My first call on him thereafter, as the ambassador in the US, naturally focused on a possible visit. The PM brought up the subject of the diaspora, which he described as a great strength of the nation. They needed to discover their own voice, and we needed to consolidate their role as a bridge. The instructions for the MSG event flowed from this belief. It must be organized in a manner that its sound would reverberate not just in the US and India, but across the world. That it certainly did, for most part because of the intensity of the PM's connect to the audience was so manifest. Thus began a unique experiment in popular diplomacy that has been the envy of many other leaders and countries. Equally, it has boosted the pride of the diaspora wherever he spoke. Now, The MSG, of course, was the first of its kind. It then moved to Australia. I had the honor of organizing one in London, in Wembley. And to do it in the Wembley Stadium was, I cannot even describe the feeling to you. And in many ways, even today, the practice continues. We just a few months ago did one in Denmark. I must tell you, the Prime Minister of Denmark, she came on the stage along with the Prime Minister. And her first name is Mette. So first you had this entire, crowd there with that Modi, and then she came on and became Mette, and she said, I couldn't have even imagined something like this. I mean, in our mind, it was like a rock concert, a political rally, it was everything rolled in one. And so when we actually did the Nordic summit, a large part of the summit was her describing to the other Nordic prime ministers what this particular experience was like. It's very, very different. My point was that applies to the Indian cricket team as well. But it's interesting here. I mean, you suggested in a way that Modi brought about the change. I would actually say Modi himself is a product of that change. That is the fact that someone like him eventually has become Prime Minister of India itself shows how much the country has changed. So sometimes, you have these, I read these debates about how is democracy doing around the world, and different people give labels to countries of their choice. This is a country where, look at the number of people who go to vote, it's continuously rising. Look at the number of women who are voting, that's rising even faster. Look at the integrity of the democratic processes, the fact that, it's a country where elections are respected. People win, people lose. Nobody challenges the process. No, I'm only speaking about India. Please do not read anything more into it. So my point is, I think we have a great deal to be proud of. Now, the results we throw out may not suit everybody, so there would be people who, as part of politics, will give it a twist and call it things. But I really think, when you go around the world, and I do sometimes get these debates in other societies. So, are you optimistic about your politics? So, where do you think your society is going? I think Indians are actually, Indians are optimistic, and frankly have a very good reason to be optimistic. Student focus that he has, is incredibly focused on, what happens to our students. We push very, very aggressively in countries for working opportunities for our students. So he does realize, there is a whole menu out there about what can determine India's image abroad. We are one, the foreign ministry and embassies are part of it, a very important part of it. But I would argue that there's much to it than that. Want to move on? It was for me, frankly, even at that time, a visit which stood out in my tenure. Obviously, the next time I actually met him was when he had become Prime Minister. And by that time, I was here as ambassador. So I obviously followed the campaign, etc., with interest. So for me, it's not like, we had some huge prior personal connect. It's someone I have known really for about 10 years. But who, as I said, is very, really exceptional in his working habits, in his commitment, in his desire. That fire in the belly to change the country was very visible. And of course, the next similar set of experiences we had, I'm usually a little cautious talking on that set of subjects, but I will say this. I actually first met him, and I mentioned it, by the way, in this book.
Yeah.
When I was ambassador in China, and he came, he was Chief Minister of Gujarat. He had come on a visit. He had come with an investment business team as well. And quite honestly, we had a lot during that period. I was 4.5 years in China. You know, we had a lot of people who came, a lot of chief ministers who came, and no question, he stood out. You know, he stood out. I mean, I frankly liked Mr. Modi before I met Mr. Modi, because I'm a kind of on certain matters, at least as people who worked with me would testify, possibly complain. I'm a micromanager. I like to go into details. I do my diligence, you know. So I can be quite a pain when in my professional life. Okay, I'm a nice guy outside. But I found someone who, I mean, the level of preparation which was done actually set him apart, you know. And often the frustrations of being in an embassy is you deal with people who come unprepared, you know, they don't even respond to what you have said. Instead, here we were, you know, he came in with even a visiting card where he had got his name transcribed in a manner in which they understood the program, and the program was, you know, at that time it was very novel to me. Now I know it's an SOP, which is you start 7:30 in the morning with a breakfast, and then you carry on till you drop, because he doesn't. And it was frankly for me a revelation. You know, it was something very novel, because as in a sense Sindhu has said, that's not what we associate politicians with, you know. And the interesting thing was, I mean, I guess I must have made a good impression. But he did say one thing to me at the end of it all. One, of course, and I write about it here. He wanted a political briefing, which normally chief ministers are not bothered about that. But he gave me a very good reason. He said, look, I'm abroad. I'm from a different political party, but I do not want to say something which is even a millimeter different from what is my national policy. So I want you to walk me through, through and China is a very tricky relationship. The other bit which was different was he wanted to know, okay, what should I say? He said also, please tell me what should I not say. Okay. And I saw that during the course of the meeting, you know, he would kind of half turn, and there would be that quick look, which is like sort of, is there feedback, you know. By the way, feedback is his favorite term. So after every meeting, you know, he would want a feedback. How did it go? You know, what did I do right? Did I get the tone right? Did I get the substance right?
नमस्कार, मैं हूं संदीप चौधरी। अगर आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया हो तो इसे लाइक और शेयर जरूर करें, और हाँ, हमें सब्सक्राइब और फॉलो करना ना भूलें, ताकि आप देश और दुनिया की कोई खबर मिस ना करें। तो जुड़िए हमारे साथ और देखते रहिए News24।